A lot of the terrarium, it's bouncing. A lot of the terrarium advice that you see online is like totally inaccurate and not based on actual science or research. It's just stuff that's been done for years and years and years and stuff that people kind of assume works but isn't actually anything that needs to happen or should happen necessarily and might just be setting you back. So, as someone who reads a lot of scientific research stuff because I'm a huge plant nerd, um, and who teaches terrarium workshops as like a big part of my job, I wanted to kind of teach you guys some of the terrarium myths and truths and what the real deal is. So, if you don't know who I am, I'm Savannah. I have a little shop called Easy Little Plants in Olney, Maryland, and I do birthday parties, workshops. I grow plants in repurposed glass containers without any drainage, and they thrive and are very happy and cute, and I set things up in a way where it's very easy for people to take care of the plants and the instructions make sense and aren't just medium water, medium light. Like, how much is medium? So let's get into the terrarium stuff. The first thing is drainage layers. Oh my god, the drainage layers. You do not need those. You do not need those. Drainage layers create soup at the bottom of your terrarium. It creates so much extra moisture that either your roots will go deep into and be like, what the heck is this? This isn't soil, and they might freak out and die down there and get rotten and airflow issues, and anaerobic bacteria is the bacteria that shows up when you have airflow issues, and it gets stinky, gets really stinky and really gross, and you don't want that. And the drainage is not a thing that needs to happen if you put in the right amount of water to begin with. If you put in too much water in your terrarium, drainage will not save you. There will still be too much water in your terrarium, and at that point, you will need to have a heck of a time taking that extra water out with paper towels and leaving the lid cracked. I like to leave a paper towel ball inside the terrarium overnight, and it absorbs a lot of water, and then I take it out and throw it away or let it dry out and use it again if it's that bad. Or if it's really, really bad, I'll use a pipette and like siphon out some of the water. I'll dab a paper towel on it. Like, ooh, you can leave the lid half cracked for like a few weeks to let water out and it'll evaporate. But drainage is not your friend. Drainage is not a thing that ever needs to happen. And you can instead just go full soil with it, and your plants can enjoy that soil, and you can put a nice amount of moisture. It should be like a wrung out sponge. It should barely be wet at all, like bare minimum moisture for your happy plants. I see people putting just like full watering, like you're watering a vegetable garden outside, and that will melt your plants. They will be like so overwhelmed by all that moisture, and they will actually like melt into goop, and it'll be very sad unless they're like semi-aquatic plants like Anubias or whatever. It's like, I don't care. But most of the plants you'll use in a terrarium are not semi-aquatic, and they will be very sad, and they will die a tragic death if you thoroughly water your terrarium. So don't do that. You don't want to do that. You also do not need to buy springtails. You can go out into the forest and scoop a little bit of dirt from there, scoop a little bit of like decomposing leaf stuff, crunch it up, whatever. Get some moss from the forest even. If you're harvesting moss, take a small tiny patch from a big large patch so that you are not like decimating an entire patch of moss. We are being nice to the environment and taking little amounts. It'll grow eventually. But you can just use stuff from outside to get your springtails, and they will be there. They will be there. The soil mites will be there. The good bacteria will be there, and they will be in your terrarium. For soil, you do not want charcoal. Charcoal basically just grabs onto nutrients and everything. There are no toxins in your soil. If there are toxins in your soil, there's a problem. But the charcoal basically just grabs everything and just holds on to it, and it's like, no one can take this from me. This is mine. I own all the nitrogen. I own all the whatever. And it's a really unnecessary step, and is a horrible texture and something I hate to touch. So you don't need charcoal in your terrarium soil. I use compost. It is about 2 parts compost. I'd say now it's closer to 8 parts shredded coconut husk chunks that I actually end up having to shred even further by hand because they're too big. And 4 parts coconut coir stuff. And that's what I use, but you can use dirt from outside if you're not as like picky about things and you're using plants that are not as picky about things. Like ferns, I don't think will care if you just use dirt from outside. Nerve plant probably won't care. If you're doing like African violets or something like that, those plants will care. So you need to use the chunky chunks for them. Airflow is the most important thing. It's not drainage, it's airflow. You want the air to be able to move through your soil because the plants will need the air in their roots. And by airflow, I do not mean airing out your terrarium or having aeration holes. Your terrarium can be airtight and you can still have good airflow. The airflow is just the ability of the air to go through the soil and up and out and in and out and all of that. Airflow is probably not the best word for me to use there because airflow usually, when people say that, they're referring to having it be open or having aeration holes. It can be airtight. There's enough oxygen in there, there's enough carbon in there, there's enough nitrogen in there to go around and around. It's in the soil, it's in your plants, it's going woo, 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 woo all the time, coming in and out of various bacteria and fungi and decomposing whatnot. Like, you do not need to air it out. You can add fertilizer. You can add, I use the Epsoma organic fertilizer in a very, very, very diluted amount. I use like 1/4 of what it says, and I like pipette that stuff in there. I am not aggressive with my fertilizer because I am still new to using the fertilizer in there, and I don't want my plants to get too big. You can actually control the size of your plants by controlling the size of your soil stuff in there. The less soil you have, the smaller your plants will stay. The higher your soil level, the more your plants have to take from, the more root space they can have, the bigger they'll get. So you kind of want to balance the amount of soil you have to the amount of plant that you want to end up with. It works out pretty nicely that way usually. Did I mention that these guys are so cute and I'm so proud of them and I kind of don't want to sell them, and when someone asked how much they were, I gave a kind of high price because I'm like, I kind of want to keep them. But what else is there to say about terrarium myths? Terrarium myths. You will get algae. Algae is annoying and you'll have to like redo your terrarium when the algae happens. It's fine, it's fine. I mean, you don't have to. The algae goops things up and makes things annoying and hoards the nutrients that your plants were using and messes with the airflow stuff. So it's kind of good to change it when the algae happens. That's the main terrarium myth things that I wanted to go over in this video, really. The charcoal, the drainage layers, the springtails you have to buy online, and the crazy amounts of water. Oh, you do not want to put sand on top of your terrarium. Please do not put sand on top. That'll mess with your airflow too. Please do not use dried moss from the craft store because that will just rot. It is dead. It is probably dyed with some sort of weird stuff that'll leach into your water and make everything green and weird. Do not use the lichen stuff, the reindeer moss that is dried and sold at the craft store. Do not completely cover your surface of your terrarium in little rocks because that'll mess up your airflow. You can put a few little rocks, but leave room for the air. Your roots need air. They will get their air from the soil and the other things in your terrarium, but that stuff needs to be able to move around, and that's like the most important thing ever for your happy terrariums. So, if you liked this video and you like terrariums and plants and things, you should subscribe to Easy Little Plants on YouTube. And if you're from Maryland or DC or Virginia or wherever, Montgomery County, Maryland. Come to Easy Little Plants in Olney. Email me, book a terrarium workshop, easylittleplants@gmail.com. Book a birthday party. Have me make a custom terrarium for you. That would be so cool. Oh my god. Or just come by the shop and buy some stuff. We're open from like every day, Tuesday through Sunday, so you should be here. You should be here like right now. Why aren't you here? Come on, I'm like lonely. Be my friend. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye bye!